All right, I'm going to do the test review. Again, yesterday was lab the entire period. Today has been lab the entire period except for right now. Tomorrow you're going to take the written test for Chapter 11, for which we'll do the test review very shortly. Not the hands-on though. Instead of the hands-on, we're going to flip these 2 days and I'm going to go over the e-commerce chapter, which is a very short chapter. We should be able to do that in about a half an hour. So we'll do those 2 things tomorrow. Then Thursday will be your hands-on test for Chapter 11 and 12 for the entire period. Starting on Friday, we're going to go through an exercise as a class. You're going to have to do it, and I'll show you what we're going to end up creating, and it's this. Doesn't look like much, but Evan Gudmested, who is my counterpart over in the St. Louis campus, he had signed up for a course where the guy built this. And he goes through it very slowly, and I think he does a very nice job. So I'm going to ask that you do it too. I'm going to give you this image, these 3 images, and these 3 images right here. So you'll get all that stuff. All right? And what we'll do on Friday is we'll just go through the HTML part. So it'll look really, really ugly. All right? Because you won't have any CSS. And then on Monday, we'll begin the CSS. It's pretty lengthy. So we'll see if we have time to do it in one class or not. If we don't, we'll finish it the next day. All right, just so you have some kind of an idea of what's going on in the next few days. All right, so heading over to the test review, if you have your papers handy, first question or set of questions: what is Java? What is a Java applet? What is JavaScript? And what is jQuery? So when you look at those, the key thing about Java up here is Java is object-oriented and Java is a programming language. If you don't know what object-oriented means, it means that everything you do in Java has to be done in what's called a class. All right, that's what object-oriented means, and an object is an instance of a class. So if we created a class called person, Brady would be an example of a person object. So what it means, so what Eric, etc. All right, but the key thing is Java is object-oriented and it's a programming language. All right, Java applets may be contained in a file that has an extension of .class, so it has a class extension. All right, now whereas Java is a programming language and it's object-oriented, JavaScript is a scripting language, and notice that rather than saying it's object-oriented, it says that it's object-based. What that means is you can use object-oriented stuff in JavaScript, but you don't have to. So it's based on objects, but you don't have to use them. In fact, we'll have, I think it's Chapter 7 out of the 8 we go through in the JavaScript book that's on objects. Everything else that we do will not be on objects. All right. And then finally, jQuery is a JavaScript library. So it's intended to make whatever you do with your scripting, your JavaScript scripting, easier. So that's the idea. So Java, object-oriented programming language; Java applet, class extension; JavaScript, object-based scripting language; jQuery, JavaScript library. Any questions on any of those? Judging by the way you're writing there, Ethan, I guess I didn't give you enough room to put all that stuff in there. All right, number 2, list some popular extensions for video files. AVI, MP4, and OGV. I guess there should have been a dot there. The key thing to remember is there's 2 questions on here. All right, don't have to look at me, but please listen to this. One says what are popular ones for audio and what are popular for video. Okay, the one for audio, remember, audio files are also known as the major audio files, are WAV files. So in here, notice how one of them is WAV. So if you remember WAV for audio, you should be fine on those 2 questions. So .avi, .mp4, and .ogv. And ogv is for video, okay? And you'll see .ogg, and that's for audio in just a minute. But the big thing about ogv and ogg files is they're open source. Ideally, that's what everybody's going to go to in the future, meaning Microsoft, all right? But right now, they don't support it, all right? So .avi, .mp4, and .ogv. Again, for audio files, .wav, .mp3, and .ogg, or .ogg. So ogv, the V for video, ogg, not the G for audio, but just so you know what's what. And they literally listed something like, they'll say something like .wav, .mp3, .ogg are examples of, and then they'll give you 4 selections. And audio and video are listed in both of them. See what I'm saying? That's her way of trying to trick you up. What is the video tag used for? If you put a video tag, it gives you those arrows and where you can pause, etc. All right, not that I'm all that graphical, but you get the idea. So the controls attribute displays video controls for the video player. Start, stop, rewind, whatever it happens to be. Any questions on any of those 4? What is the Java Virtual Machine, also known as the JVM? The good news for you is when we get into that part of the class, which will be in your last semester here, you already have the Java machine. If you've got a computer, a laptop that's 10 years old or less, you've got the JVM basically built inside of it anyway. As it says, it interprets Java bytecode into the appropriate machine language. Remember, or don't remember, but what I told you the other day was that Java, unlike most programming languages interpret then compile. Java compiles, then it interprets. So when it compiles, it puts your code into what's called bytecode, which is the same name as your program, but instead of ending with .java, it ends with .class. And then the JVM interprets that bytecode and it converts it into the zeros and ones that the computer can understand. All right, because bottom line, everything's got to go to machine language eventually. Okay. What is the document object model, or DOM? It defines every object and every element on a web page. You may or may not remember, but one of the things I told you is if you learn how to program the DOM, you've got the ultimate power over a website. Because anything on a website that can contain a class or an ID or whatever, and that's anything on a website, can be programmed or done or worked or manipulated programmatically using the DOM. All right, and not only does it define every object and element on a page, it's a pictorial representation. So in other words, if I go out here and I go out to Google Images and I type in document object model, notice all the pictures it gives me. So most of the time it looks something like, well, you don't see it very big in here, but something like this. Okay. What is an API, or an application program interface? It's a protocol that provides a method for software components to communicate, interact, and share data. What I mentioned the other day is it's kind of like a contract. And what happens is, what you are saying is, The software is saying you can use all this stuff, and you're saying, okay, I'm going to use it, but I agree to abide by your rules in using it. All right? It's kind of like if you live in an apartment. You know, you sign a lease, right? But what you agree is that whatever their rules are for the apartment, you're going to follow them. All right? For instance, you're probably not going to open up a bed and breakfast at your own apartment. All right, that kind of thing. So it's an API or an application program interface. And if you still are confused, just so you see this, I'm just going to show you this. I don't want to waste too much of our time in here, but I'm going to type in here java.sun.com, which brings me out to Java's website. When I go out to Java's website, if you may or may not be able to see that from here, this says Java APIs. So if I highlight that, it's going to say, well, which one do you want? I'll just grab the newest. And what you get over here are a list. These are all the built-in things that Java has in there. And if you want to use them, you know, basically, I want to know how to use, for example, strings in JavaScript, or Java rather. So I go down here and I find string. There it is. Okay? And it says, here's the class. And here's all the stuff that you can do when you're working with strings. I picked that because I know there's a lot of them. So that's the stuff that's in the API, and you're able to use that, but you have to use it in the way that's specified in the API. All right, number 8. What is the video tag poster attribute? We talked about this the other day. If you put in a poster attribute, what happens is before your video begins, you ever see that where they literally have a poster for a movie? All right, if you download that poster tag and put it in there as a JPEG or probably not a GIF, but a JPEG or a PNG, that before your video or your audio starts, you'll get a picture. That's what the poster does. So again, it displays an image that represents a movie. That's an easy one. What's the HTML5 API that allows web page visitors to share their geographic location? Well, remember, geographic location. Where do you think they got the word from? Geo and location. And I gave you the example the other day where I said that if you are at fandango.com, all right, and you want to find out about something about movies in the area, typically you'll get a message on the bottom of your phone or your device that says, the geolocation would like to know your current location, or Fandango would like to know your current location. That's geolocation. All right. Number 10, AJAX stands for, and I think it's on the test like that. Typically you see it in uppercase, but it doesn't matter one way or the other. The point is it stands for asynchronous JavaScript and XML. Notice it says XML here. It does not say this. It does not say XHTML. And why am I telling you that? Because that's one of the choices that you're given. All right. So it's asynchronous JavaScript, all right, and XML. And if you don't know what asynchronous is, okay, human conversation is supposed to be synchronous. So if Amin and I are going to have a conversation, ideally, okay, I'll say something, he'll listen. When I'm done, he'll start speaking, and I'll listen. Okay? With asynchronous communication, you do something, and you, rather than waiting for a result, you go on and start doing something else. Kind of like the debate last night, if you listen to Mr. Trump. All right? Because Hillary would be saying something and he'd do nothing but basically interrupt her. All right? And when he wasn't doing that, he was kind of interrupting Lester Holt, who I really felt for last night because he was trying to keep control and lost it like from 2 minutes in because he told the crowd what to do and then they didn't do it for the entire 90 minutes. All right, so asynchronous JavaScript and XML. True or false? You should supply text descriptions of audio and video files. Well, wouldn't that be true? What are you doing that for? Yeah, people who have any kind of limitation, physical or otherwise. True or false? Some of these just, come on. You should obtain permission before using files created by others. Well, I think you should, unless you possibly want to get sued. And just sitting there and calling somebody up, hey, can I use that? Sure you can. That's not enough. At a minimum, you need an email that they give to you. All right? But ideally, what a lot of companies do is they send out letters or whatever on regular letterhead, have some kind of a form, or do whatever. What is fair use? Fair use, as it says, it's copyrighted work. But I can use it because I'm using it for teaching. All right? So it's work that you can use from others, for lack of better words. This isn't on the test, but it's if you're using it without the intention of financial gain. So if you're using it not to make money, you're typically allowed to use things, and that's fair use. And I took this not from the test. I took that right. That's what the author said. I grabbed it right from the book. Or it might be on the test too. I don't remember, but I know that that's what the author had said. All right. Number 14, what does the CSS transform property do? It allows you to rotate, scale, skew, or move an element. There are two questions in a row. This is transform. The next one is transition. Remember, when you transform, you're changing how something looks, right? By rescaling it, skewing it. We saw that where we had that thing with that bistro where they took the picture and it tilted it. That's a transform. The transition is something we actually used. You actually used that transition property on that Wild Wild West thing that we did. That was what allowed when you put your mouse over the different icons when they popped up in the air and went down again. That's a transition. So the transform, scale, skew, or move, rotate, scale, skew, or move. The transition allows something to fade in, fade out, move up, move down, do whatever. You are transitioning from one state to another over a specified amount of time. What you'll see when we go into a little bit of this stuff, when we talk about jQuery, and we have stuff start moving up on the screen and sliding up, sliding down, sliding left or right on the page, is there's 4 ways you can do it. You can do it fast. Literally use the word fast, which means we go through it quickly. Slow, which still is pretty fast, but it's about half as fast is. Medium, which is right in between there, or you can give your own speed, where you use typically milliseconds, where there's 1,000 milliseconds in 1 second. And then finally, what element is used to associate JavaScript in a web page? So if I want to put JavaScript in a web page, I say script, and I have something, whatever it happens to be, and then I end it with a /script. You're going to start learning about that in about 2 or 3 weeks. All right. Questions? Any of them that you need repeated? Yes, sir. 15. So one more time, test tomorrow. Most people tend to finish the test around 8:30 or so. As soon as the last person has turned it in, I'm jumping right into Chapter 12, which is on e-commerce, short chapter. If we get all that done by 9, great. Then you have from 9 until 11:55 to keep working on your homework. Thursday will be chapters 9 through 11, the hands-on test. All right? And then Friday we'll start on this project. Questions? All right.